Our top focus story is the battle for Jammu and Kashmir and the battle for Jharkhand. If we were to talk about the valley, J&K Chief Minister Omar Abdullah is among 114 candidates. 16 seats. The fate has now been sealed in the third phase of elections. Polling was held amid massive security deployment in all the three districts after the valley witnessed a series of terror attacks. 21 persons, including 11 security personnel and 8 terrorists, have been killed in 4 incidents of terrorist violence in the past 1 week. Voters in the valley have sealed the fate of J&K Chief Minister Omar Abdullah, 3 of his cabinet colleagues and 10 sitting MLAs from different parties. All eyes were on Uri and Tral. This was where terror strikes took place. In the first 2 phases, Jammu and Kashmir saw 71% voter turnout. The voters in Jammu and Kashmir, the people ignored boycott call by separatists, terror threat by terrorists. The stakes in this phase extremely high for the People's Democratic Party. It's held 9 of the 16 assembly constituencies that voted today. Headlines today. Shujaul Haq now joins me from Jammu and Kashmir. Rohit Singh joins us from Jharkhand. But Shuja, let me come to you first. Take us through the voter turnout in different constituencies. Despite the terror threat, despite the boycott call in cold, people came out and voted.
Well, that's right. There were 16 assembly segments which were going to polls this time around, and I have figures up till 3 p.m. The election commission officials are still working for the last 1 hour's figures, and we don't want to be seen, giving out wrong figures. So we will only be quoting figures that came at around 3, and the highest voter turnout was from Uri, and it had crossed 66% already. Similar voter turnout was recorded from other places like Budgam, Birwa, where from the Chief Minister himself contests, and in fact even in the areas which were called sensitive, there was a considerable amount of voting that happened. In Tral, the voting percentage was around 25-26%. Even in Sopore, the voting percentage had crossed around 25%. Though that is not much, but considering the fact that if comparisons are to be made of what happened in last Lok Sabha polls and in the other assembly elections, this also seems to be pretty good. So far, this is the situation on the ground. Very heavy polling did happen in many areas. There were places where terror attacks had happened, like Uri, and in parts of South Kashmir, which have also seen polling happening today. Despite all the odds, like you were mentioning, the inclement weather conditions, and also the fact that there were boycott calls, there were threats, there were posters being put across, people came out right from the very early in the morning and started queuing up outside their respective polling booths, trying to make sure that their vote is cast.
So what has changed this time? Because if we were to talk about some of the sensitive localities or sensitive areas, voter turnout would usually be low. Why have people come out this time?
Well, there are various aspects to it. When you speak to the people who go to these polling booths and ask them what is it that has changed now, most of them have only one answer. They want a change in the local governance. They are mostly fed up with local issues like the possibilities of having better infrastructure, having good roads, good means of communication, and also one of the important points that they always mention is about unemployment. All in all, this seems to be a mandate towards better governance, and possibly a lot of anger towards the present establishment, which for them hasn't done much in terms of their making their lives better on the ground.
Stay with me, Shuja. Let me for a moment quickly go across to Jharkhand. Now, along with Jammu and Kashmir, 17 constituencies in Jharkhand also went to polls today. The high-profile contenders in this phase were the JVM Supremo and former Chief Minister Babulal Marandi, former Speaker CP Singh, RJD's Annapurna Devi, Congress's RP Singh, former banker Jaiprakash Patel. Now, the borders of Ranchi, Bokaro, Ramgarh, Kodarma, Chhatra and East Singhbhum, which went to polls, were sealed as a precautionary measure. There was a strict vigil that was kept at the passage of these vehicles in this area. As many as 260 companies were deployed to conduct safe and secure voting. Headlines today is Rohit Singh joins me from Hazaribagh. Rohit, what's the latest?
Well, Gaurav, voting has ended for the day, for the third phase, and out of the 17 seats where voting took place today, at 14 places, the voting ended at 3 p.m. itself, because all these areas are heavily Maoist infested areas, and that is why it was the 3 p.m. deadline. And apart from that, at the three rest of the places, Ranchi, Kaki and Hatia, voting has just ended now at 5 p.m. And we have the figures for 3 p.m. It is 60% as of now. And we have spoken to the local authorities election commission office in Ranchi, and they are expecting that these numbers could increase by 1 or 2%. So without any incident happening, voting has ended very peacefully today. And now we have been seeing, because yesterday we saw that the Mi-17 choppers were dropping polling parties in the sensitive areas where there are Naxal threat. And today we are seeing in Hazaribagh that now those polling parties are being brought back to Hazaribagh, to the headquarters, with the EVM machine. So the process has ended very safely, and the fate of leaders like Babulal Marandi,
yes,
CP Singh and Sudesh Mehta all sealed in the EVM now.
Okay.